Hello, everybody. Welcome to this edition of CATIA TV. My name is Jonathan Asher, and I'm very pleased to be here with you today. I have Stephan Ritz, the Product Experience Director from the CATIA Design team, joining me.
Hello, everybody.
Today, Stephan is going to talk to you about the CATIA high-end visualization and VR capabilities within CATIA on the 3D Experience platform for both buildings, building design, and construction. It's a lot of really great and exciting content, and he's going to walk you through a wide range of capabilities that are all delivered on the cloud in CATIA.
Thanks a lot, Jonathan. So as said, building design and construction is collaboration. And in fact, we have many different people involved in this process from different locations, but also from different disciplines. And what you see is actually that they need to work together. They need to collaborate, as Jonathan described. And our approach, as already said, is the 3D Experience platform, because it's one joint platform to work together and to enable teamwork. And there are many talks. I think, Jonathan, you provided already many talks about the power of the 3D Experience platform to the audience. But I want to highlight 4 subjects, actually, that are very important also for our talk here about visualization and VR. We have, as one of the major benefits of the 3D Experience platform, of course, a virtual twin. That's a twin of the building or the construction site that everyone is looking at. And it's exactly a managed virtual twin, so it's a single source of truth. We have design roles. So everyone involved in the process needs maybe a different application. So what these roles enable you or provide to you is actually the best application for your discipline, still connected to the virtual twin on the 3D Experience platform. It enables also teamwork because you need to work together and you need to connect and trace your decisions with colleagues or also yourself. So this is also a very big benefit. You can, for instance, create issues that you then track and trace later on. And last but not least, 3D experiences. So as said, we do 3D, and in the name of the platform and the examples and demonstrations that I provide to you today are examples for 3D experiences that we provide to you, to the customers and your customers. So why do we do this? Because actually all the people involved in building design and constructions have a common need. They want to have a precise communication, as said before, between all the different silos. They want to break the silos, precisely communicate, and take accurate decisions. And as one of the facts, that I want to mention is actually they don't speak the same language. It might be sometimes a different professional language, so they are from different disciplines, so they have different ways to communicate, different ways to express themselves. So there's already first language barrier, but it's also an international industry. So design might be done on one part of the world, construction on the other part of the world. So just 2 examples that show us that there might be a lot of barriers to overcome in terms of language. And that's where we come to visualization, because what could be better than actually looking at the final building, the final construction, the final infrastructure, like you will see it when it's built or your customer will see it when it's built. And since pictures on a screen, renderings or movies might be limited, we also add VR because this enables you actually to jump in front of your building or inside your building, as you can do with the final construction, with the final building also. So these are major aspects I want to highlight for you today. So visualization and VR, not just standalone, also connected to the power of the 3D Experience platform and the major benefits I was introducing before. So this should enable you to take the traditional drawing, as Jonathan explained, and I'm showing here, do 3D sketches out of them. This is a already very established and widely used capability. Also to make faces, surfaces, and rooms out of this is already quite widely used. We go a level further now with CATIA Live Rendering. We introduce materials. So you can directly put materials, appearances on your 3D to experience a room. And it's not just the material that live rendering is adding, also the environment, because your construction site, your building might be located somewhere and has a certain context. Speaking about context, of course, live rendering is also enabling light and shadow. As you can see here, the lighting and shadow situation is quite important. It's also part of the context of your building or your construction site. And of course, it's not just a picture that we render here, it's actually a 3D experience. So you can really experience your building, your different designs, whatever you need in 3D. That's why we call it the 3D Experience Platform. And what you see in here is OpenGL that's enabled in most applications in the design phase. Talking about precision, this is real-time rendering. Of course, CATIA Live Rendering is also enabling global illumination and ray tracing for very, very precise renderings and views or interactive sessions to make a precise decision and really have everything taken into consideration from a realistic and realism perspective. So in a nutshell, CATIA Live Rendering is the tool, the first tool I want to introduce to you to create a realistic virtual twin with precise materials, lighting, and cameras to enable the collaboration and decision-making I was mentioning before inside the 3D design process and inside CATIA 3D design apps. In order to do so, CATIA Live Rendering is taking care of some very important subjects. First of all, materials, as I mentioned before, and there are different ways to work with material. I will touch it in a few minutes. Environments, we call them ambiences, to build the context and also lighting situation of your future construction or your future building. Lighting, because it's not just the environment, it's also the building that might contain lights. So I will show you an example how to create lights. And cameras to create the specific views that you want of your building or inside your building or inside your site. And it provides you also rendering capabilities. Two different render modes actually that we were touching already in our introduction. So on the one side, we have the real-time rendering, which is there to really interactively discuss different proposals, interactively work with your different design data. As you can see here, it is quite performing. It enables you to work in CAD or as shown here with already visualization applied. This enables you to really move around in your different design proposals, interactively have a decision-making process. On the other side, CATIA Live Rendering is enabling precise ray tracing and global illumination, as you can see on the right side. So this is really the level of rendering that we will need for a final decision. And it looks like the final building in many areas will look like. So we have here now already touched a little bit with some examples from the interior and exterior, the four subjects. I want to go a little bit further and really go through the different capabilities with you in this little example. So first, we focus on cameras, lighting, and ambiences. You see our interior here. And as shown before, the interior is interactively experienceable with global illumination. So it's really an interactive session. It might have the limits in terms of judgment and realism of the OpenGL rendering, but it's interactive. We can switch on GI, global illumination, for precise lighting, shadows, and also the reflection and the colors of the reflection and the light. We can access here, you see also different components from the database. We can also switch on of lights that we built with live rendering. And this is just a very, very quick example that shows you already that we can switch on the one side between very precise rendering and very interactive rendering. We can leverage the power of the 3D Experience platform by bringing in different components and variants of our 3D design, and also leverage visualization here and the live rendering capabilities with the lights that we just switched on. So that already showed the first capability, important capability of CATIA Live Rendering. It has a light sources management that is quite flexible and also interactively usable. So that means everything you see here in this menus, you can be changed during you run your global illumination session, for instance, and contains live updates during your ray trace or during you have GI switched on. So your interactivity in the viewport here, interactive viewport is possible even if you change parameters on the fly. You can have different light types created, point light, spotlight, area light, or directional light. And the parameters are artistic if you want it, or you can also choose to go to physical based parameters. Like for instance, you can put in the color temperature in Kelvin or the intensity in candela or lumen if you have the physical parameters at your hand. We also support photometric lights. This is just one of the more examples or one of the examples that show you how powerful this function is. But let's go directly back to our example. Let's switch on the light sources manager and see some of the lights in action here, or some of the things I described to you, functionalities in action. You can switch through different lights. This time you are really in the light sources manager. You don't just hide and show them. You can adjust the intensity, for instance, here, and by adjusting it, you see directly changing in the viewport. You can also change the temperature, for instance, of the color. And together with a choice of materials that we will touch a little bit later, you get a very powerful session of visualization, a very powerful capability to judge your room here, your layout of the room in combination with the lighting. And that's a very simple but powerful use case that already show you how 3D experiences can contribute towards your decision-making process in terms of light, visualization, and materials. We have also other capabilities. So we have seen an interior example. For the exterior, we have a built-in capability called sun and sky system. So what is it? Very often you have the situation that you want to decide for your building that it has to be lit in a certain daytime, and you know the location. Then with the sun and sky system, you can actually set this very precisely. So if you know when and where the building is, you can just put these values inside the sun and sky system, and you get automatically a physical correct sunlight, and also including atmospheric effects. So the color of the light is changing. So I use this also in our example for the exterior lighting evaluation. You see here now the first lighting situation at a certain daytime, a later daytime, and even later, you see that it's changing. It's not just changing the light or the shadow, it's also changing the light colors. And so you see here the reflection of the walls with the certain light colors from the exterior create a complete different ambience and appearance in the interior of your building. After now I've seen already first capabilities that we just can do with cameras, lighting, and ambiences in the interior, I want to show you an example that is from the outside of the building, because it's also very important and very interesting, because there we can make much more use out of the ambiences capabilities that we have built in. So this is a little older example. That's why you see in the beginning when we switch on global illumination, actually some first noise. But this is accumulating quite fast. And then you see that we can see a good reflection of our ambience, of our environment here in the windows. And by changing the environment, you can see that we get a complete different reflection and a complete different look of our exterior. And this is not the only functionality that we can interactively quickly use. We can also take our light manager and switch on some lights in the interior. This way we get a very, very good assessment capability between interior lighting and exterior lighting. I have to mention that this scene here is shown together with CAD makers on the NVIDIA GTC. So the data set is shown together with them on NVIDIA GTC, as already some other examples that I will show later on. So now we have covered already use cases that actually are using cameras, ambiences, and lighting, and precise and real-time rendering from CATIA Live Rendering. So now let's take a look on the materials involved. And as you can see, and as I was already mentioning, there are a lot of requirements towards materials. And also you see that we have already from precise measured materials to flexible procedural materials, a range of usage. And that's why we came up with a new material type inside the 3D Experience platform, inside CATIA Live Rendering, that we call the DSPBR material model. It is, first of all, an open model and open standard. So it's GitHub documented, including examples and other subjects. So if you plan to build up your materials in combination or together with your CAD inside your environment, inside 3D Experience platform, you have an open standard, so you are secure for the future. The second thing is that the DSPBR material model is a physical-based model, so it provides physical accuracy across all render modes, which is also important for communication and decision-making. And it is prepared actually not just for Dassault inputs, Dassault systems inputs and material standards, it's also reading material types and standards from other partners. And this puts us in an industry-leading position. I just mentioned here Adobe Substances for flexible material ideation, X-Rite measured EXF materials for precise measured materials that we will see in a second. And for instance, NVIDIA MDL as another important standard in the industry. So this enables us that we support use cases and really manage a stretch between creativity and physical accuracy. On the one side, we have in creativity the need for conceptual materials. So you don't know what material do you want to experiment with them, you want to explore the possibilities, you want to communicate the design intent, or maybe sometimes define a target for your suppliers or other people involved. Then you need creativity and conceptual materials. On the other side, for physical accuracy, you might have already material. You have the CAD data that is precise and maybe already accepted by the customer. You have precise materials from your suppliers, for instance, and you want to scan them and want to be very, very sure that they look like the final material and want to apply them on your CAD data directly. All of this is possible with the DSPBR material standard. And actually, this standard can contain, as mentioned, a lot of different types of materials. Let me start to give you an example out of physical accuracy, together with the partner X-Rite. So this partnership and the DSPBR material enable the following workflow very quickly. You take your examples, physical material samples, put it in an accepted and market-leading scanner from X-Rite to capture the material, process it together with the Pantora software to output a so-called EXF format that then can be consumed by CATIA Live Rendering and the DSPBR material standard and directly rendered on CAD data. That shows you how DSPBR and a partnership from Dassault Systems can enable a really, really flexible process, because you can take a customer material, your material, or whatever material you want, a sample. You can use a market-leading standard that we simply use together with the DSPBR material and leverage the power of the Dassault Systems visualization tools on the 3Experience platform. So that's a very good example on how you can really make a state-of-the-art process, leveraging the best of all worlds and being flexible at the same time. So here's an example. So we took this material, we scanned it. I know I don't show you how to put it in a scanner, but what we can show you is that we finally have the EXF already applied here in our scene. What you see very often is a scene like this, where people compare real and virtual. And then we can render very precise representations of our product. Precise materials, productization level 3D geometry, because it's really the CAD data below, combined with the precise rendering capabilities, are the perfect base for a good decision that you can see here with the use of physical accurate materials. After we have spoken about how we can use physical accurate materials and measured materials on the one side, let's now take a look on the other side, how we can enable creativity with Adobe Substance Materials and the powerful usage inside the 3Experience platform. So for this, I chose an example that we showed with Shop, also at the GTC conference in the past. This building is actually a good example, and the example should be about the part of the building here on the left side that shines golden. This is the facade, and this is just a placeholder here, and we want to have an interactive discussion on this facade using our procedural materials, our substance integration. So what are procedural materials? Actually, they are nothing else than formulas or mathematical descriptions of materials. And you can use these formulas and inject parameters inside. So the parameters are changing the appearance of the materials. And these parameters are exposed in CATIA Live Rendering in the interface of the software. And this way, you can interactively play with the materials and change them during they are applied on your CAD geometry. And they are compatible with real-time and global illumination, just to mention it here for the sake of completeness. So here's an example that we directly took from CATIA Live Rendering. This cobblestone material is not a photo, it's not a scan, not a texture, it's a procedural material, a substance material. And with the change of a slider, you can actually grow more water, change the pattern of the material, change the water, or make less water. You can say now, okay, that's a picture, but I want to show it also in action directly in CATIA Live Rendering and show you the interface, and that it's really interactive and that you can use it in an interactive session. So we can change, for instance, here the pattern, inject it in the formula, changing multiple parameters to give you different patterns. We have easy understandable parameters exposed here, like edge damage, that you can use to make more damage in the edges, introduce cracks, or change colors and other attributes. It shows you how interactive and intuitive you can change a material and have a creative session on a different material type directly in CATIA Live Rendering in the 3Experience platform. So now in our example on the building, we actually applied a procedural material here on the facade that I was mentioning before. And the session was about what kind of facade with which tiles, which size, and so on we can use. And when we take a look closer and open the appearance properties menu here, you see that we have some parameters exposed. And we can change, for instance, the offset between the different lines of our facade. So we can make no offset or introduce an offset. This is already very powerful, and it's directly interactive, doable in CATIA Live Rendering. You can also change not just the offset, but also the tile size and other parameters to really play with our design and get a first inspiration and maybe a first direction, or set a target how we can do the facade. You might mention, okay, it's not the right perspective, so no one will see it from this perspective except I have a building on the other side and I climbed up the stairs. That's correct, and that's also something we thought about. And what could be better than standing in front of the building or jumping inside the building or see the facade from the perspective on a pedestrian like we will do on a daily basis later on. That's why we combined the use case with our CATIA immersive enablers. So these enablers are there to make or enable an immersive experience directly inside the CATIA applications. We have the virtual reality reviewer and the immersive visual experience for single user, supporting HMDs, immersive walls and caves, and the immersive collaboration experience for people to work together. And it's so special because they are just enablers. You can keep using your software with what you did before with high quality visualization or not. It's directly enabled inside the 3D experience application. You can have it immediately available, so you don't have to switch your workflow or something. You just switch on VR. There's no data conversion and no tool change involved. For our example, we use virtual reality reviewer and immersive visual experience. We take CATIA Live Rendering as we have used it before in the desktop mode and empower it with immersive visual experience or virtual reality reviewer to be VR ready. And what you get actually is a hybrid environment. So CATIA Live Rendering VR, we call it. So we can see in VR directly our data. We can stand in front of our building. At the same time, we have still our original tool, Live Rendering, here for hybrid usage ready. So here's an example, a very simple one that explains what do we mean by this. So you see here actually one person in VR and the other person working on the 3Experience platform with CATIA Natural Shape. They are changing the native geometry. They are working with it with the native tools in Natural Shape and do just a simple example here, changing the valve. They make it a little bit longer. And at the same time, during an engineer, for instance, on the desktop is doing his design, another person can check the usability, can evaluate it directly in VR. And this can be done not just with simple examples like this. This can be done, of course, in a much more complex context. Very simple example that we want to use now together with our facade. So when we come back to our building and the facade example, you see two people are working here, and the person on the desktop is still in control of the procedural material. The other person actually is able to do what we were desiring before. It is able to walk in front of the building, walk around, take the view or perspective from a pedestrian or from a later user on the street. And that's very powerful because you see that the different perspectives together with the correct lighting situation, reflections, and so on, create a complete different appearance and also a different feedback maybe. And then you can still play with the same capabilities that we have shown before. You can adjust the tiles here. You see that the reflection is also very important for the smaller tiles. And you might get completely different results from this perspective than you might have from your desktop session that we have seen before. Of course, we can play with the offset, which is a very important functionality here in this demonstration. But also you see that there is a kind of different color randomness. This we can also reduce. And we can expose many more parameters. What we see here is just examples. So it shows you how powerful the combination of visualization, procedural materials, and immersive enablers can be in a very simple use case. So we have seen already a powerful example on the facade in terms of tiling and population of the different tiles and how we arrange them and also what differentiates them. We can do also material ideation on a very, very precise and high quality level. So what you see in here is a material that you might face from very, very close because it's on a balcony of a building. So you see here that actually the material, by just a change of a parameter, can get much more detail. And the reflection together with this detailing gives you a very, very good first insight on what you want and how you want to actually use material and what material do you want to use. Of course, we can go on and add more detail. You can even add more structure and see that we have a complete different appearance also in terms of reflection. And since we are in a creative session, so with all the flexibility and interactive, you can also decide to change completely the whole appearance and also the structure to start maybe with a complete new approach. So in fact, what it was is it was a live interactive session, a discussion between two people. So two people that had different samples and different inspirations and played with the material in front of them, directly applied on the CAD data. So all of this is really interactively usable and was really used in a discussion between my team members that made the demonstrator actually. At any point in time, that's a good thing. You can start VR now and walk on the balcony and see not just the impact of a single perspective on the material here. You see how all the attributes and all of the things that you get out of a realistic perspective when you walk on the balcony. So you see here, by changing the material, the reflection is completely a different one. And this gives you a very good insight for the final material. Imagine that you would have this capability not just between designers, but also between designers and suppliers or suppliers and customers. It gives you a certain capability to really have a very, very precise communication and also an accurate decision capability. That's what we mean by this. So we have touched now a first use case or a set of first use cases that showed us materials, different types of materials, ambiances, lighting, cameras, and also capabilities to combine this with the immersive modes to make accurate decisions. I want to push it a little bit further with the usage of immersive collaboration. And this is a very good collaboration tool. And talking about collaboration, I want to come back to the slide that Jonathan showed initially here for the project delivery methods. Because you said, Jonathan, that it's a drawing-centric industry process and a lot of different silos are involved with this. And we want to show with the 3D Experience platform, with our visualization and immersive capabilities and the immersive enablers, that we can really help here building bridges. So what we did actually is we took the drawing, we built in CATIA a 3D representation of the drawing. So we built 3D and a etage or a complete building out of the drawings. We overlaid the drawing with the 3D, and by doing so, we got some very interesting insights. So meaning you, at any point in time, you are able, for instance, to check if your 3D matches the initial drawing, which is quite convenient, of course. And it's something that is given with the CATIA features. But you are also able to see, are there things in 3D space that you don't notice on a drawing? And this thanks to the power of 3D, the 3D Experience platform, and all the interactive capabilities. You can also add, as seen here, more information like the layout of the different flats. And this is already on its own a very powerful functionality. But as I said, the 3D Experience platform should enable collaboration between people, and we have the immersive features on top. So what you can do, first of all, or what you can see here is that after one person has done his evaluation, with 3D instant messaging, he can actually chat and communicate with other people on the 3D Experience platform. And not just chat and communicate about a certain approach that they have, they can also meet. So what they start is actually, they start a interactive session with a co-review, and first they share the data. So they both look on the same data set from the same perspective and have a discussion from the same perspective on some issues or on some discussion points that they want to highlight. And once they are done with the desktop session, at any point in time, they can actually also go in VR. And what they can do in VR is they meet in their plan, in their 3D, like they would meet in their construction site. So what you see here is a very powerful session of people that can bring all the different sources of information together, synced on the 3Experience platform. So they can have a discussion in one-to-one scale on different perspectives, on different points. You can see one person is jumping out here, going in the hybrid mode, now switching on some walls that they have already built up. And the other person keeps here working and judges already how it's looking from a 3D perspective, like it will be in the construction site later. And it's not just this single functionality. There's a lot of power enabled. So together you can go into tight spaces as here. You can see in one-to-one scale, is it working from a customer perspective? Here it's a bathroom example. You can see also if penetrations, for instance, are working or if they are overlaid. You see effects and things that you just see in 3D and one-to-one scale. So what you have enabled here is usually something that you might have, or the ability that you might have later on when you have a construction site. This is already all enabled here during you do your 3D design in 3D at a very early stage. You see here that we even brought in first materials, not just to have a CAD look, but also to see lighting and shadows and the materials live. And this way you can have a discussion like you will have maybe later with your customer or with people on the construction site already very early. It's collaborative and it's also a good communication tool for suppliers. And when you take a look on the balcony, you will see it's not just the simple CAD geometry. We also find our little example here for the facade design that we did before. It's there, it's available. It's all in one virtual twin. So this way, we show you how we can build bridges between the disciplines, enable collaboration between 2D drawings, 3D, but everyone involved in the process. So after now, we have seen the power of our immersive enablers together with the capabilities of CATIA Live Rendering and visualization. I would like to highlight one fact that we don't have seen at the moment. Because what we did is actually we created a lot of different materials. So we have, for instance, for measured materials, we have created a lot of different options. So we have one material, but we have different proposals. For instance, for our facade or for our side panel of the balcony, we used different ambiances, different positions of the ambiances, or simply we are able to switch on different ambiances, different lighting options, or different camera positions for our camera or different views. And this is nothing else than creating multiple variants. And this is possible for visualization, but also possible for 3D design, for instance. So you can have different options, different variants of your building for different walls, as you can have different variants for your materials. And what can we do to support people now to have a discussion, a precise discussion on these different variations without the need of meeting each other in a specific design tool? Because that always carries the risk that you are one expert that knows the tool and the other person might be not familiar with the tool. So we have to create an application that enables people to meet with a very simple interface and make efficient decisions on variants of your design. And that's actually the CATIA product perception experience. It's an application that enables accurate design decisions on the fly. So it can leverage actually high quality visualization and VR, as we have seen before. You can bring in a lot of different variations, as I mentioned, 3D variations, different packages of 3D, surface variations, different materials, different HMI options, different humans, different simulation results, or even kinematics or behaviors. So a lot of different inputs and many more you can bring in here to take a decision on based on them. And what you can do is actually you can capture, categorize, and filter these alternatives. And with this, you filter your decision. So you can set favorite or reject a variant, and so on and so on. And all of this with a very intuitive interface. Let's take a look on the example that we see on the upper screen. So two people with this application can have an active discussion on a building, switching through different variants of 3D or just materials or different perspectives, as you can see here. And this shows you that is very, very efficient and that you don't need to know a specific application, because what you see here as an interface is just the variants you want to discuss are exposed. So this way, everyone is invited to have a discussion, participate in a decision-making process, And we build bridges between different disciplines that want to meet at a certain point without knowing the other one's specific or specialized application. For your information, CATIA Product Perception Experience is not just capable to run real-time or OpenGL graphics, it can also run in GI. You can also, at the end of your decision-making process, render ray tracing and GI pictures, images, or movies out of this software. So, as I said, we should enable everyone to make a decision. But in fact, we might take a look on the examples and say, okay, but I'm not a visualization expert. I'm not an expert to building up these experiences. That's why, and if you have taken a look on the slide carefully, we also have a visual experience content collection, as shown here beside the materials. This content collection is an enabler that just contains content. So you have 3D content inside. So if you search for a plant or a chair or table to illustrate maybe your interior of your building, you can do it. If you need, for instance, an environment because you don't have an environment ready, but you want to put your building in context, you can choose out of a library of environments. We also have different humans inside with different clauses if you need humans as a reference. But we have also a lot of materials inside. And the materials I want to highlight here because this is a very, very good enabler for everything I've shown before. So in the visual experience content collection, we have over 190 high quality materials that are measured one as well as procedural ones inside this collection. We have this to cover a wide range of different use cases. And as introduced before, the procedural materials actually, they enable you to work with a lot of different variations of materials. And this is enabling much more than 190 appearances out of these materials. I will show you some examples. Glass, for instance, is in the package because as a person that is not a professional visualization expert, you might find it difficult to set up glass. Metals, with all the different metal structures, are there built in. So we search for good industry examples to make it quite easy. And all of these metals can be directly applied on your CAD data. We brought in also wood. There are many woods inside and different approaches for wood because it's also widely used these days because of sustainability. There is a wider usage of wood, for instance. And of course, stones and concrete with a lot of different types that you can use and directly and easily put on your CAD data and easily express, okay, what should be actually the material I'm using in my building design or on my construction site. You see different qualities here that express quite well the quality levels that we can also propose directly on CAD data. And yes, you find, of course, a cobblestone example also available for you in the visual experience content collection. I also want to show some of the materials that are maybe not so interesting for the building design and construction industry, but show very well how far we push the quality for materials to be applied directly on the CAD data inside the CATIA applications. And this content collection, together with our visualization applications, enable you to make precise renderings, to enable quickly and efficiently renderings inside your decision-making process based on your CAD data, leveraging real-time or as seen here, ray tracing or global illumination rendering. And this for as many people as we can enable with all the tools available. So before closing, I want to just make one more comment about CATIA immersive experiences. Actually, what I have introduced is the hybrid mode, so working with one application on desktop, and then the other person, for instance, can see the results in immersive mode. In fact, if you use some of the 3 experience applications, like for instance, CATIA Creative Design Experience, CATIA Natural Sketch, or CATIA Product Perception Experience, then it's not just a hybrid mode that we enable. If you take these applications and many more applications and use them together with immersive visual experience or virtual reality reviewer, you get an application that exposes their features in the VR mode. So you are enabled to work in immersive design and decision workflow fully in VR. So the application is exposing, as you can see here from CATIA Creative Design Experience, its desktop functionality of sketching in the VR mode. You don't have to be two people anymore. You can be alone. You can directly work with the function that you used from the desktop in VR. Very powerful enablement. And of course, worth mentioning, because that's a situation you will face very often, that you will work alone. And also in VR, you might get insights in functionalities on the desktop that you don't have when you are not in one-to-one scale. So I think we have enough seen from an automotive example, even though it's quite impressive. Let's also see this functionality directly on a building design example. This is CATIA Natural Sketch on a balcony and shows how you can sketch actually directly in one-to-one scale. So it's a very, very simple example where you can see that you just draw the lines from the perspective of someone standing on the balcony. You see that it smoothens the lines automatically. That's a built-in functionality like on the desktop. But the power of VR here is that you can really judge the curves and the perspectives right. And after you have done it in VR, of course, we are on the free experience platform. You can go to applications like generative shape design, reuse what you have done in the VR session, modify it, as you can see here, and keep working. So I don't want to make it too long here. I just wanted to introduce you the capability to have full VR design or decision-making processes with the power of applications exposing their features in VR. And this concludes my talk on how visualization and virtual reality enable precise communication and accurate decisions inside building design and construction, and also at the same time leveraging all the capabilities of the 3D Experience platform. Before I close, I also want to thank our partners, because as I said already introduced, we have used here some examples that we work together with CAD makers for the GTC conference. Same for shop architects, another example that we worked for the GTC conference. Thanks to powerful partnerships, we are able to show this kind of demonstrations. And I want to like to thank you for your participation today. Hope you find it interesting. Hope you can use some of the functionalities for your decision-making processes in the future, and hope it was enjoyable also, because it should be also fun to work with the free experience platform. Thanks a lot.
Wow, thank you, Stephan. That was really, really impressive stuff. Really impressive stuff. And it's incredible to think that all of that is delivered out of the box in CATIA on the cloud in the 3D Experience platform, specifically for buildings through the building designer, building design engineer role, and the building and civil presenter role. That's just incredible, incredible capabilities. I don't have any questions for you. You've done such a great job covering this incredible capabilities. For any of you that are watching, again, thank you. Thank you to the partners, CAD makers and shop architects as well, just as Stephan mentioned. If anyone has any questions, this will be posted on our swim community. You're absolutely welcome and invited to post questions there. We've got a number of YouTube videos online that explain in more detail how to create these types of renderings and visualizations. And if you have questions about that, you're welcome to pose those questions on the community or directly in our YouTube videos, either the CATIA Design Team YouTube channel or the CATIA AEC YouTube channel. We've got videos on live rendering and product perception experience posted to both of them. So with that, I thank you so much for your attention. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much, Stephan. Really, really, really fantastic stuff. And we'll talk soon.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.